introduction said, I've got poetry, artwork, and everything in here, so you can check out the book on the shelves there. You can see I've got all kinds of stuff in there. Um, if this book is divided in 5 parts, so I thought I would read a couple of poems from each part, and then you guys can kind of follow along the story with that. The first part is called A Milestone Reached. And this poem is called The Power of Numbers. I've unintentionally put a lot of power in a number, the number 19. It seems innocuous, doesn't it? But it's half my age. This summer, I turned 38. Divide 38 by 2 and you get 19. 19 years ago, I was only 19. 19 was half a lifetime ago. Half a lifetime ago doesn't feel that far away. 19 years doesn't feel that long at all. Rather than looking forward to the next decade, I am looking over my shoulder and obsessing over 19. This one is titled Measuring Distance with Time. The woman I am at 38 is so different from the girl I was at 19. The girl who defied her destiny and sank into a sea laced with midnight hues. But here, at 38, I learned to swim and cut myself loose from anchors that dragged me down and nearly drowned me. The woman I am, the girl I was, this same body, this same heart and soul, and yet how different we are, a distance of 19 years and a sea apart. This one is titled Being Devalued with the Assistance of a Calendar. Most of the time, I have trouble relating to other women. As I approach 40, I watch other women dreading rising numbers. Approaching and surpassing 40 makes them squirm. Society has made it clear that women lose their value as they age. Everywhere we look, the grays are being covered up, wrinkles painted away, serums promising to restore our fleeting youth, and capitalism bankrupting us with lies. I won't let ad men determine my worth or how I should age. Time is merciless and spares no one. Age gracefully, I will go out like a storm. Okay, part 2 is called halves. This is first and last. 19 plus 19 equals 38. The first 19 years belong to New York, the second 19 to Arizona. A balance in numbers, equal parts, years spent equitably, 2 states, 2 coasts. How have I lived so evenly? I thought there would be more numbers. As usual, life had other plans. She wanted me to live in halves. She trapped me here. This is Codependent Apple. In my last year of being a teenager, I left my world behind. A whole world existed beyond New York City. Part of me knew that, and yet I struggled to feel it. I had dreams of starting fresh, but also nightmares of staying in the city that never sleeps alone. Who was I to conquer skyscrapers? A mild-mannered girl, and no hidden powers beyond my humanity. Only a single wounded ego, a loathing for the being of flesh my flickering light called home. I had to leave because I had to change. I had to run because happiness was 2,000 miles away. I went westward, stayed connected to the strands of DNA that entwined me. I was an apple in a bushel along for the ride, acting in fear of separation from the tree that grew me. And this is Gifted Child Survival Mode. When the smart kid commits to bringing home the best grades, no one ever questions the pressure on the hinges. I was on fire, racing through flames to please. You're smart, you're smart. And I continued to drain myself of brain cells and kindling and connections that should fill a room, fill my memory. It was hard to keep earning the applause. I remained an outsider, unsociable, but I brought home good grades. Those fucking good grades. All the perfect grades they wanted, expected, demanded. be attached to my name. Love was paid for with good grades. The rest didn't matter. You're smart, but you're so smart. But I'm numb. Okay, and these are from part 3, which is called a change in scenery. And this one is bubble pop. There was a culture shock, naturally, going from the bright lights and downcast eyes of the big city to the small town life where people learned your name. East Coast versus Southwest, battle of ecology, technology. There seemed to be more than a time zone difference, a way of living out of a history textbook. This town not yet reeking of modern etiquettes, or lack thereof etiquette, and it turned out that I was invisible no matter where I went. At first, it was a fascination, but then the realization that deciduous trees still grow here, with less of a chance that the human population will wipe you out. There was a bubble pop, loud and messy, and then the weight of the open sky began to crush me. This one is called Haunted. It might have still been November, or maybe it was already December, but a number resting in the year 2004, and this was when 19 became a thing to haunt me. A thing not mentioned in my journals boldly, but lurking in shadows and spaces between lines of poetry, a slice in my memory. Half a lifetime ago, I nearly died. At a time of gratefulness and blessings and good cheer, I lived in a world painted black for the holiday season. Half a lifetime ago, I wish I could forget what they did, jealous of how they went to sleep without questions and woke up with blank slates, how 19 became as invisible as me, and the girl I was didn't rise the next morning the same. And I tried to ignore it, but I marked myself forever, with my number, with my secret, with my shame, with my trauma. I entered into a numbers game. And this is called The Night I Swallowed. I remember that I broke, but not how many weeks it took to shatter. The decision was quick, easily made while everyone slept peacefully, and I writhed alone in agony. I remember that I swallowed, but not how many pills tumbled from the bottle. The effects of my choice overwhelmed me immediately, and I stumbled from the bathroom to the bedroom. I remember that I was in disbelief, but there was no way to stop it. The last minute slowed with my heartbeat, and suddenly I was scared. I remember to check the clock, I remember the clock read 11:34 p.m., and how it was too late to change my mind, and how heavy my body felt being paralyzed on the mattress, and how I couldn't shout for help, and how I couldn't keep my eyes open. Everything blurred before it turned to black. These are from part 4, which is called What Did and Didn't Happen Next. This one is called Half Past. I had no idea I'd feel so groggy after my resurrection. I had no idea there'd be so much slime on my pillow after my kiss with death. Have you ever been hungover? This was 100 times worse than that. Sensation crept back into my limbs like a spider making delicate connections in his web. My head pounded with the steady rhythm of a high school marching band. Despite my eyes feeling like fuzzballs in my skull, I stared at the numbers on the clock, both curious and afraid, until the optic nerves had me guessing what the lines meant. 4:30. 4:30. Confused, but grateful. Whatever prayer I had offered up to the universe in those last moments of consciousness about not actually wanting to die had been answered. I was alive. Alive and ashamed of myself. Alive and feeling the stupidest I had ever had in my life. Why was I still alive? Here was another example of something I couldn't do right. This is called The Number 17 Goes Unnoticed. The fog cleared after I supplied the storm with pills, and I realized there had not been a morning sun to see. 4:30 was almost 5 in the evening. 17 hours had passed between the girl I was and who remained. An entire day was spent on a mattress on the floor, alone and unconscious, because no one had checked in on 19-year-old me for a whole day. There was zero breakfast, zero lunch, and dinner hour was blossoming. A person had to eat and drink and use the bathroom at some point in 17 hours, didn't they? But I wasn't even a thought. I was not a daily essential. Where else would I have been without friends or a job or a car or any independence? I was in my bedroom all night and most of the day, alone. That's all anyone cared to know. And that brought a new kind of pain, knowing that I didn't matter enough to my family for them to notice my absence despite my presence. Maybe I was as worthless as I thought I was. Filled by questions. If I had died, would a house full of my family have found my body? Or when? Sorry. Would someone have come in to get me for dinner? Come in to say goodnight? Wait until the next morning to care about someone besides themselves? Would they have mourned me? Would they have said they never saw the signs I had been exhibiting for nearly a decade? Would they have complained that I ruined a perfectly good mattress? Said I spoiled their first Arizona Christmas experience? If they hadn't noticed I was gone all day, why bother telling them what happened? Could I erase what I did if no one else knew about it? Did I need to tell anyone what I was sure I'd never try again? Would anyone believe me since I wasn't bleeding or dead? Would they write me off as dramatic or attention-seeking? And if they believed me, what then? I heard my mother's voice in my head telling me how stupid I was for trying to kill myself. I couldn't imagine my harshest critic saying anything I needed her to say. I was already a disappointment. What other words could she use that would hurt me more than that? I am an inconvenience. I am a burden. I am a waste of existence. I was too fragile to receive more of her judgment. This is, I wish the words were different, but they weren't. I was riding a wave of courage and flew too close to the sun. I told my mother about why the number 19 haunted me. She said everything I expected her to hear. She said everything I expected to hear, which was nothing a parent should have said. Stupid, stupid, stupid. How could you? How could you? What about me? Me. The moment was then erased from our records. These are from the last part, part 5, called No Set Number. This is coded messages. The sins of the father were carried so deeply that they embedded themselves into the DNA, changing my code in the order of the letters that spelled love and condemned us to repeat unspoken words with sharp corners. Here I am, racing against my clock to find a cure, to end the madness, to heal the pattern, and to save my own prodigy from such a lack of self-awareness. Points of view. I haven't told my family that I've been going to therapy or that medication helps me get through the day. Communication remains our greatest challenge. We speak different languages under the same roof. I don't feel heard. I feel flipped and redirected and rejected. What's consistent is there's no consistency, and I find hope in limitations. Limiting time with those who share my DNA, foregoing the creation of joint memories, and accepting that my point of view may never be used. I find benefits in my new boundaries, but they only see madness. Chaos tastes better than the truth. Is therapy a violation against mothers? A conversation of conversion? A critique on parenting? My mother boils. Therapists always blame the mother. She tells us both that she did her best with what she had. And yes, this could be true. The sun peeked through the storm clouds and threw colors at my sky ever so briefly with my reflective tears. But her best wasn't always something that fed me. Some days her spoon was empty. She mistakes me for pointing a finger when I hold out the olive branch. Chaos tastes better than the truth. The dysfunctional family lives by this unspoken rule, to live in silent pain. Division. It was division that saved me. My love for ordinal numbers was a weakness. I was subtracting myself as I struggled to identify in their mathematical formula. As the integers separated, The space between the values increased. Somehow I became a stable quotient among variables and questionable algorithms. Was it worth the wait? 19 years disappeared from the outside, but they're still within me, blending with the sunsets and sunrises, gold and pink and midnight are colors that remain a part of me. I was never lost. I was waiting. I will never be young again. I'll never be young again, but perhaps that's the benefit of aging. I shed the shell I created in my younger days to become this butterfly that was almost crushed before it had the chance to pupate. I learned my greatest enemies stayed close as they broke my heart one by one. I grew despite the cuts that turned into scars and earned the wrinkles around my eyes. And as I spread my kaleidoscope wings, I know they will not break because the past is something I'll never have to go through again. This is going to be the last one. It's called A Glimmer. I'd like to catch a glimpse of myself at 57 and see the picture life has painted me into. There will be more gray hairs on my head and deeper wrinkles around my eyes, just as there should be. I will have earned every silver streak and each smiling crevice on my face. In some ways, I will be weaker, but in others, I will have grown stronger. I will take away the power of numbers. Numbers will be just numbers and not ghosts that haunt me.